A few days later, it is a beautiful sunny morning. The birds are chirping, the flowers blooming, and the engines of the island are slowly beginning to wake up from a peaceful night's sleep. Toby is the first to wake, his eyes flickering as a wisp of early morning steam escapes his boiler. Toby chuffs cheerfully out of his shed, his wheels spinning eagerly in the still cool morning air. He stretches his front wheels, enjoying the warmth of the sun on his boiler. Another fine day on the island. Sam said, time to get to work. As Toby chuffs along, he can't help but overhear some of the other engines chatting about something. He slows down to listen in, curiosity getting the better of him, chuffing slowly. What's all this excitement about? Toby's eyes widen in surprise as he hears what the others are talking about. He chuffs softly, confused and concerned. Nazo being sent away? But why? Why? Steam hissing in worry. This doesn't sound right. Why would Sir Topham Hatt send away a new engine like Nazo without an explanation? It's baffling. He glances behind him, as though half expecting Nazo to appear at any moment to debunk the rumor. is silent for a moment, pondering the other's words. He knows that Nazo has been nothing but helpful and hard-working since he arrived on the island. Chuffing slowly. You're right. Nazo has done more good around here than all of us combined. It just doesn't make sense why he would be sent away. Something doesn't feel right. He glances around at the rest of the engines, noting their confusion and concerned steam hissing. We can't just stand by and let this happen. If Nazo is truly being sent away, we need to find out why. Otherwise, chuffing softly, otherwise it wouldn't be fair to Nazo. We need to speak to Sir Topham Hatt and get to the bottom of this. Toby and the other engines search around the island for Sir Topham Hatt, determined to find him and get answers. They check all the usual spots, the sheds, the stations, the yards, but there's no sign of the Fat Controller anywhere, chuffing in frustration. Where on earth could he be? It's as if he's vanished into thin air. Toby's eyes narrow as he spots a flicker of movement near the control tower. A shadow, too tall to be anyone but. Steam hisses in realization. Gentlemen, look, he's up there. A sharp whistle from above cuts off all conversation. The Fat Controller leans out the window, face unreadable. This is precisely why I didn't want you lot poking about. Toby's wheels skid to a halt, his boiler giving an alarmed hiss creak. Sir Topham Hatt, wait, at least tell us why Nazo is being sent away. He's done nothing but help since he arrived. The other engines murmur in agreement, their buffers nudging forward slightly. Sir Topham Hatt's hat tilts down as he studies them. His voice is quieter than usual. That's precisely the problem. All the other engines trade looks of confusion before Toby finally finds his voice again, steam creaking anxiously. That doesn't make any sense. How can being helpful be a problem? Sir Topham Hatt sighs, drumming his fingers on the window ledge. It's complicated, Toby. I appreciate your concern, but there are things you don't understand. The fat controller listens to the other engine's words, his expression unreadable. He's clearly uncomfortable with the situation, but seems steadfast in his decision. There's a long, tense moment of silence before he finally speaks again. Sir Topham Hatt's voice is soft, almost regretful. I appreciate your loyalty and your enthusiastic defense of Nazo, but as much as you all like him, it's not about who deserves to be here. There are other factors at play that you don't know about. The fat controller's words hang heavy in the air. The engines exchange looks of realization and uneasiness. It seems the issue is more complex than they thought. Toby chuffs slowly, steam hissing with concerns. This was about space and maintenance. But surely there must be a better way, Sir Topham Hatt. Nazo is, he hesitates to say the word useful. Nazo is valuable. Sir Topham Hatt nods sadly. I understand your feelings, Toby. I truly do. But sometimes we have to make difficult decisions. The infrastructure here simply can't accommodate an extra engine, no matter how helpful or valuable they may be. He sighs deeply, drumming his fingers on the window frame again. Believe me, I did my best to explore all options before coming to this conclusion. The decision was not made lightly. The fat controller seems momentarily taken aback. He leans forward, resting his arms on the window ledge. You're all refusing to work unless Nazo is brought back to the island? It's a bold move, gentlemen, and not without risks. He strokes his mustache absently, mulling over this unexpected protest. Steam hissing quizzically. But you are willing to have Nazo attached to one of you if there's no other way? Sir Topham Hatt's expression shifts, surprise then consideration. His fingers pause mid-stroke of his mustache. Duck, you're suggesting we modify the shunting yard? Convert a siding into makeshift storage? The other engines murmur in agreement, nudging each other forward with their buffers. Toby adds quietly, we'd make it work, we always do. A long silence follows before Sir Toib deeply and adjusts his hat. Very well, but this is a trial basis only. Sir Topham Hatt's face flushes slightly as the engines bring up past examples. His grip tightens on the windowsill. You're quite right about that, he admits grudgingly. But, Duck interrupts, steam hissing impatiently. And remember when Percy got stuck in a ditch for weeks and you still didn't send him away? A murmur of agreement ripples through the group. Toby adds quietly, Nazo has been nothing but helpful since he arrived. The Fat Controller exhales sharply through his nose, looking thoroughly outmaneuvered by logic and collective defiance. Toby and the others continue to list off past incidents, moments when the Fat Controller had shown leniency to other engines with problematic behavior. They mention Percy's constant accidents, Thomas's cheeky attitude, Henry's previous sulking, and James' vanity. Toby adds, and yet Nazo, who's shown nothing but diligence and hard work, is the one being punished. One by one, the engines raise valid points, making comparison after comparison. The Fat Controller appears increasingly uncomfortable, his face flushing further with each new example. He opens his mouth a few times, clearly looking to counter their arguments, but shuts it each time, unable to find a suitable rebuttal. Steam hisses in frustration. You lot are persuasive, to say the least. Sir Topham Hatt crosses his arms, tapping his foot against the floor. He looks like he's just realized that he's been backed into a corner, and there's no way out. The engines wait in tense silence, watching for his response. Toby, emboldened, takes a step forward. Sir Topham Hatt, he begins softly. I think it's fair to say we all want what's best for the island, and we believe that includes Nazo, our friend. Sir Topham Hatt's brow furrows as the point about parts is raised. He'd not considered this aspect of the situation, and it doesn't improve his already strained mood. He sighs again, frustration and reluctance written all over his face. You're right. To modify the yard and accommodate Nazo's needs, we'd have to spare parts, and yes, it might make him appear more similar to James and Edward. That does complicate things. Sir Topham Hatt stiffens, his hat tilting slightly as he processes the sheer weight of their argument. The other engines press closer, Buffers nudging insistently against the shed door. Duck! He splutters. I never said anything about justice. This is logistics. Resources. Toby chuffs softly. Sir, with all due respect, if we're judging fairness by work done and complaints made, a loud clang from Percy cutting in, then maybe it's time to rethink who really deserves a spot here. The fat controller looks thoroughly outmaneuvered. His mustache twitches once before he finally mutters, Fine, but I expect Nazo back fully operational. And if this causes delays, the engines collectively relax at Sir Topham Hatt's surrender. There's a palpable sense of relief, and several of the engines chuff quietly to themselves, celebrating this victory. Toby chuffs softly, feeling a surge of gratitude towards the crew for standing together. The air of tension dissipates, replaced by anticipation. Don't worry, Sir Topham Hatt. We'll do what it takes to bring Nazo back in tip-top condition. The other engines add their assent. Percy, emboldened by the turn in events, adds confidently, The moment the call ends, Sir Topham Hatt's shoulders slump. The engines watch in stunned silence as he dials a new number, hands moving mechanically. Static crackles before a gruff voice answers. Sodding Island, eh? That Nazo engine's already been shipped out to the northern world. You're too late. A beat of horrified quiet follows. Duck's whistle lets out an involuntary shriek. Toby is the first to break the stillness. We can't just let that happen. Sir Topham Hatt stares down at the receiver, stunned into silence. The other engines murmur in distress, unable to believe what they just heard. Duck is the first to find his voice, steam hissing in a furious chuff. Northern Works, they'll rip Nazo apart, sell his parts. We can't let that happen. As Duck's words sink in, a wave of desperation and anger passes through the group. Percy mutters, "It's not fair. We just saved him from being sent away. Now this was the worst to this, so these are." The engines look to Sir Topham Hatt, waiting for a solution. The Fat Controller finally seems to snap out of his shocked state. He looks over the anxious group, realizing the gravity of the situation. Northern Works, he mutters more to himself than the others. I had no idea. I thought he'd be sent to a shed, not someplace like there. He closes his eyes, pinching the bridge of his nose. Sir Topham Hatt's eyes narrow, his grip tightening on the phone. No, absolutely not. I refuse to let a loyal engine be torn apart for scrap, especially one who earned our trust. He slams the receiver down with uncharacteristic force, then turns sharply toward Toby and the others. We're stealing him back. A stunned silence follows, until Duck lets out a sharp whistle of disbelief. Did you just say steal, sir? There's a long, tense moment of silence. The engines exchange anxious looks. Finally, Sir Topham Hatt lets out a deep sigh, straightening his hat. Northern Works is they're not a place for preserving engines. If Nazo is there, they won't see him as an engine. They'll see a source of parts. Sir Topham Hatt's words hang heavily in the air. The engines exchange glances of concern. Toby chuffs softly, his boiler hissing in worry. But we can't just let them dismantle Nazo. He's more than parts. He's our friend. Duck adds, steam hissing in determination. We have to go find him. Northern Works, it's a long way from here. Toby and the other engines immediately spring into action. They rush to prepare themselves, checking their couplings, fueling up, making sure they're in top condition for a long journey. Duck puffs urgently. Gentlemen, we can't waste time. If Nazo is already on his way to Northern Works, Percy adds nervously, and if we're too late, he'll be scrapped before he even gets there. A chorus of determined whistles rise as the group begins moving out toward the main line. Nazo chuffs steadily, his boilers working hard to maintain a consistent pace. Although he doesn't know where he's going, he's content for the moment, enjoying the feeling of being useful. The hours slide by, and the scenery becomes more and more unfamiliar. He's so focused on his work that he barely notices how far he's traveled. It isn't until he spots a sign in the distance that he slows to a halt. Nazo's eyes widen as he reads, Northern Works. Nazo's boiler shudders with trepidation. He's heard whispers about Northern Works, how it's a place where engines go to be stripped down for parts and scrapped. He looks around. The sprawling complex of Northern Works stretches out before him. It's a graveyard of engines in various states of disassembly. Nazo gulps, his wheels spinning anxiously. Nazo's wheels screech as he reverses violently, steam hissing in panic. The worker's shouts fade behind him as he barrels toward the only visible exit, a narrow siding leading to a steep hill. Halt that engine! A lorry blocks his path just ahead. Nazo has seconds to decide. 1. Ramble through the yard blindly, risking collision. 2. Climb onto the tracks of an oncoming train jumping. Or Nazo rockets out of the siding, leaving the lorry far behind. His boiler hisses with relief. But his relief is short-lived. A sharp whistle rings out somewhere in the distance, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. Nazo's eyes widen as he realizes his escape attempt has been noticed. He spots a set of tracks leading in one direction and barrels toward them. Nazo chuffs desperately, pushing his wheels as hard as he can. He can hear the shouts of the workers behind him, getting increasingly distant. Nazo dares not turn his head to see, but he knows he's still in trouble if they can follow his steam trails. Nazo chuffs and chuffs, determined to put as much distance as possible between himself and Northern Works. His wheels spin beneath him, the scenery a blur of unfamiliar landscapes. Nazo feels a spark of hope as he reaches an area where the landscape becomes more secluded, more hidden. Perhaps he's escaped the workers' notice. Nazo's eyes light up as he spots a rusty, overgrown shed tucked between the trees. It's clearly been abandoned for years. Vines crawl up the walls, and one door hangs slightly ajar. With a final huff, Nazo backs into the shed cautiously. The moment his wheels stop moving, the workers' shouts fade to nothing. A mouse scurries across his front buffer. Dust floats in shafts of sunlight through broken windows. It's quiet. Dequays like tree cheese tablets is based to stall. BV, UVO's genetic. Nazo takes a deep breath. He's exhausted but relieved for a moment's respite. Leaning against one of the shed's crumbling walls, he tries to calm his overheated boiler, listening to the soft rustling of the woods outside. Nazo gingerly peeks through the door of the shed, still on edge. He notices a familiar face among the foliage, Duke. Nazo had heard rumors and stories about the old diesel, but this was the first time they crossed paths. Curiosity piqued, Nazo hesitates before stepping out of the shed, his wheels gently crushing fallen twigs along the way. The moment Duke sees Nazo, his eyes narrow in suspicion. He's used to being the only engine in these woods, and the stranger's approach makes him wary. Duke's voice is gruff and authoritative. Who are you? This is my territory. Duke's stern expression softens slightly as Nazo explains his predicament. The mention of Northern Works makes Duke's wheels stiffen. He knows exactly what kind of place that is. Parts, eh? Well, he eyes Nazo up and down before grumbling, I suppose even scrap metal worth hiding from those vultures. A pause, then grudgingly. This shed ain't safe for long. They'll track you here eventually. Duke huffs, puffing a small cloud of diesel smoke in thought. Touch. Fine, if you're really that desperate. He jerks his head toward a narrow track hidden behind the trees. There's an old maintenance tunnel under the woods. Abandoned since I was new, wheels, a warning glance. But it's crawling with rats and rusty spikes. One wrong turn. Boom, no more Nazo. A beat passes before he mutters, unless you'd rather take your chances with Northern Works. Duke rolls his eyes exasperatedly. Nazo's single-mindedness reminds him of someone he knows. The tunnel runs for miles across the woods and ends up near the docks. He huffs a wisp of smoke, muttering, "I swear you're as clueless as a newborn." Duke quirks an eyebrow. For such a newbie, Nazo's pretty bold and clueless. He huffs again, this time more in mild amusement than impatience. "Only 21 days, he repeats, sizing the younger engine up. "And you already ended up in Northern Works. You must be the most trouble-prone engine here by far." Duke's boiler hisses in sudden outrage, his wheels skidding slightly. "Sir Topham Hatt sent you?" A pause. His glare softens into something more like guilt. He mutters under his breath, "Figures. That old fool never learns." He exhales sharply through his vents before jerking toward the tunnel again. "Fine, new plan. You're coming with me to the docks? If they want you gone so bad." A smirk forms on Duke's rusted face. "Might as well make it loud." Duke huffs in satisfaction, steam hissing with a confident chuff. "Good. This'll show Sir Topham Hatt and his fancy tenders." He starts moving toward the trees, beckoning Nazo along with an imperious jerk of his cap. "Come on, then. It's a long way to the docks." Duke leads the way, his diesel engine rumbling confidently as he pushes through the overgrown underbrush. Nazo follows close behind, wheels clanking against hidden roots. Duke glances back once to make sure Nazo is keeping up, then mutters with grudging approval, "At least you're not a total disaster. Now stay quiet unless you want every rust bucket in these woods knowing we're here." Ahead, the tunnel looms like a dark moor in the trees. Duke's engine groans in exasperation as Nazo continues to trail behind him, unknowingly kicking up pebbles and twigs with every step. "I said stay quiet," he hisses, but it's too late. A rusted signal arm clatters down ahead of them. Somewhere in the dark tunnel ahead, something or someone mutters, "Bloody newbies." A shadow shifts near the entrance. Duke's wheels lock up. We are screwed. Duke skids to a halt, peering around with a hiss. In the dim tunnel ahead, a series of rusted buffers gleam ominously. The shadow shifts again, accompanied by a metallic creak. "Who's there?" a gruff voice calls out. "I'll warn you, I'm armed." Duke hisses under his breath to Nazo, voice low. "Looks like we aren't the only engines in this tunnel." Nazo gulps. The voice sounds angry, and it reminds him of his close call with the workers at Northern Works. Duke, however, seems unfazed. He rolls forward slightly, puffs a plume of diesel smoke in the shadow's direction. "Relax, friend. We mean you no harm. We're just looking for a safer place to rest." A pause. More creaking. Another grumble. "You aren't with Sir Torpham and his fancy tenders, are you?" There's a sharp clang as the shadowy figure steps forward, a hulking rusted steam engine with one broken headlight. His glare softens slightly at Nazo's words. "Northern Works," he growls, wheels creaking in outrage. "That hellhole, they sent you here?" A pause. "Then, fine. You can stay in this tunnel, but no funny business." Duke mutters under his breath to Nazo. "Told you it was crawling with rats." Nazo exhales a breath he didn't even realize he was holding. As the rat rumbles off, he turns to Duke. "This doesn't seem much better than the shed. Are these the only options?" Duke huffs, steam hissing. "For now it is, but at least we're off Northern Works' radar." He rolls back to the wall, leaning against it. "Get some shut-eye. I'll keep watch." Nazo's wheels lock up, his boiler hisses in sheer panic. Duke barely manages to dodge, rolling back with a furious growl. "Oi! What the bloody hell was that?" He rounds on Nazo, eyes flashing dangerously. "That rat's got more sense than you." Ahead, the tunnel engine's voice booms. "Told you not to trust him." The shadowy figure lumbers forward, looming over them like a wrathful specter. Duke sighs, rubbing his boiler with a groan. "Now, nothing. You sit there." I try to keep the rat calm. Hopefully it won't be too long till daylight. Meanwhile, the tunnel engine is staring at Nazo with barely repressed rage. "You've already brought all this trouble just with your loud mouth. If you don't quiet down, I'll show you just how friendly this tunnel can be." Nazo gulps, his boiler hissing anxiously. He does his best to remain still and quiet, but that's easier said than done. Duke rolls his eyes, trying to placate the tunnel engine. "Lay off, will ya? The lad's scared, don't make it worse." A pause, then a grumble. Fine, but this newbie better keep his trap shut or else. As they settle down, Duke mutters under his breath, "You've got to learn some tact, Nazo. You're going to give me a stroke at this rate." Suddenly, a faint huff hiss echoes in the tunnel. Duke's eyes narrow. "Quiet. I hear something." Nazo freezes, his wheels going stiff. The sound is faint but unmistakable. Steam. Duke's diesel engine growls, lowering its voice to a whisper. Not the rat this time. Ahead in the tunnel, something metallic clanks. Closer now. A shadow shifts near the wall. "Oi!" New faces. A gruff voice barks from further down. "You better not be with that Northern Works lot." Duke and Nazo exchange glances in the dark. The new voice is just as hostile as the tunnel engines, but more threatening. Duke sighs, mutter under his breath, "Bloody hell, how many engines are in this tunnel?" In the distance, a soft whirring now. Wheels turning. The sound of the newcomer draws closer, every movement accompanied by the clank of metal. Nazo can feel his boiler hissing nervously again, steam swirling with anxiety. Duke, however, seems unfazed. His eyes gleam with a hint of recognition, his wheels spinning in subtle challenge. Finally, the newcomer comes into view, emerging from the shadows like a ghost. He's an imposing sight. A battered, rusted tank engine with a single missing headlight, scarred plates, and pistons gleaming in the faint light. Duke's diesel engine groans in frustration, steam hissing through clenched vents. "Great, just what we needed, a bloody Union rep." The scarred tank engine steps forward, his single headlight flickering like a predator's eye. "Union? No. But I do know who gets shipped off to Northern Works and why." A pause. His gaze bores into Nazo. "You weren't sent there for being too good, kid. You were sent because you asked too many questions." The scarred engine's boiler hisses in bitter amusement. His voice drops to a low, dangerous growl. So Topham Hatt didn't make a mistake. He sold you because he knew what Northern Works does to engines who ask too much. A pause. The tunnel feels colder. You really think the Fat Controller just accidentally signs over an engine? You're not the first. Won't be the last. Duke mutters under his breath. Touch. Told you this was trouble. The scarred tank engine huffs in derision. You think you're special? You think you're the first engine to work for Topham and have that loyalty thrown away? He rolls forward, his wheels barely audible against the rusted rails. They're all the same. Take and take and take. Use you up and cast you aside the moment it's convenient. The scarred tank engine snorts in dry amusement, his boiler hissing contemptuously. A place to belong? Ah, you really don't get it, do you? A pause, a low, condescending chuckle. You're a machine, boy, a piece of metal to be worked and used till you break. Why do you think Topham sent you to Northern Works? You're worth more as spare parts than as a working engine. The tank engine's voice turns almost pitying, though his gaze remains cold. He puffs a plume of smoke in Nazo's direction. You finally get it. We're not alive, boy. No matter how much you feel, no matter the friendships or laughter or stories you collect, we'll always be machines. We'll never truly have meaning or purpose beyond being tools. Duke mutters under his breath again. Great. An engine with depression. The scarred tank engine's headlight flickers, as if caught off guard by the sudden shift in tone. He huffs, steam hissing out in a sharp exhale. You idiot. A pause. His voice drops to something almost like concern. Listen here. If you're gonna take your own life over this, then Northern Works won that round before you even got there. Duke finally pipes up with an exasperated groan. Bloody hell! Now can we stop being dramatic and focus on getting out of this tunnel? The scarred tank engine's voice drops to a low, dangerous growl. The point? The point is that you're too soft. You let them make you feel like this. Like some pathetic thing begging for meaning. A sharp hiss of steam as he leans in closer. Listen up. If you want to be useful so bad, then stop whining and do something about it. Fight back. Duke mutters under his breath. Or just leave the tunnel quietly. The sudden roar of Nazo's engine startles the others. Their voices cut off as he lurches forward, wheels spinning in a desperate burst of speed. Oi, what the hell are you doing? Duke bellows, but it's too late. Nazo barrels down the tunnel at breakneck velocity, steam hissing wildly behind him like a comet trail. Ahead, darkness. The track bends sharply into unknown territory, and still Nazo doesn't slow. The tunnel shakes as Nazo rams through. Metal screeches, buffers collide, and the other engines shout in fury. But nothing stops him. Oi! Stop that engine! A lorry is flung aside like a toy. A signal arm bends under his weight. And then, sunlight. Nazo bursts out of the tunnel's exit at last, wheels smoking from friction burn, only to skid straight into an open field with nowhere left to go. The land ahead, just rolling hills. No tracks beyond this point. Nazo's wheels screech against the dirt as he plows forward. No tracks, no destination, just pure momentum. The other engine's shouts fade behind him. The tunnel exit shrinks in his mirrors. Ahead, wild grass whips past his buffers. A fence looms. He rams through it like paper. Steam tears from his vents like a wounded animal. Stop! You're going to die out here! Duke's voice rings out one last time, before Nazo disappears over the hillside into open countryside alone. The hill swallows Nazo whole. For a moment, there's only the screech of wheels on dirt, the roar of his own boiler pushing him faster, faster, until, crash! A barrier snaps under his weight. A ditch swallows one wheel mid-leap. Nazo tips. Steam bursts from his vents in a frantic scream as he flips end over end down the slope. Metal screeches against rock. Buffers crack like eggshells. Somewhere above, Duke and the others are still shouting. But all Nazo hears now lends. The other engines stand shell-shocked near the tunnel exit, watching the land swallow Nazo like some vast beast. Duke lets out a weary sigh. Bloody moron! A pause. The scarred tank engine's headlight glints in what almost seems like amusement. Guess some engines just have to learn the hard way. Nazo hurtles off the hillside, wheels leaving the ground as he soars through the air for a brief, free moment before smash, he slams back to earth with an agonizing crunch, landing in a heap of twisted metal. For a moment everything is still, but a few minutes of recovery and, ouch, that smarts. Hey, are you alright? A voice calls out. Nazo groans, the world spinning around him in a dizzy blur. Slowly, he lifts his head and is met with a strange, blurry face. It leans over him, the shape a mystery in the haze. Easy there, big guy. Don't try to move just yet, those were some serious tumble. A beat of silence. By the way, you're in a field. Pretty obvious, huh? Pretty obvious, huh? Nazo lifts his head, dazed. He's been flung into the middle of some kind of construction site. Half-built cranes, a bulldozer, piles of gravel, and a blue dump truck staring down at him with concern. Whoa, you came out of nowhere. You're sure you're okay? Nazo groans, his wheels creaking in pain as he tries to untangle himself. Everything hurts. Careful now, the same calm voice says. Don't move too fast. You landed pretty hard just now. He manages to roll onto his wheels, blinking through a haze of pain to take in his surroundings. He's lying in a field surrounded by rows of crops. The sun shines overhead. There's an old-looking shed nearby, and a blue tractor. Nazo's vision swims as he takes in his surroundings, swaying, creaking wood beneath him. The boat rocks violently from the force of his landing. Oi! What the hell did you just do? A burly figure shouts from above deck, nearly dropping a crate. From this new vantage point, open water stretches endlessly around Nazo. No land in sight. Just waves and seagulls screeching at the sudden interruption to their peace. The burly man sighs, leaning over the ship's side. He sizes Nazo up in the sunlight, squinting. You're on a cargo ship, in the middle of the sea. He pauses, eyeing the battered engine, smoking boiler, and mangled wheels. How the hell did you get here? The man rubs his temples in disbelief, sighing heavily. Let me get this straight, lad. You left a tunnel too fast, rammed through a fence, and then flew through the air until you landed on a cargo ship in the middle of the ocean. That about sum it up? He gives Nazo's busted boiler a pitying pat. You're some kind of lunatic, you know that? The man rolls his eyes, chuckling in spite of himself. He looks Nazo up and down, shaking his head in disbelief. I've seen engines do some stupid things before, but you might just take the cake, kid. I've half a mind to toss you off the side of this boat and let the sea sort you out. The man lets out an irritated growl. You're obsessed with the idea of going to Northern Works. Do you know what they do to you there? The man freezes. His face darkens, grip tightening on the railing. You ran from Northern Works. Long pause. The wind howls over the water as he stares at Nazo, really looks at him for the first time. Twisted wheels, steam still hissing in panic. Then, he barks a sharp laugh. Ha! So you're not just an idiot after all.